Jill Behrman was a 19-year-old student who completed her first year as a business major at Indiana University. At 9 a.m. on Wednesday the 31st of May in the year 2000, she went on a bike ride. She was an avid cyclist, and this was one of the many forms of sports she was involved in to improve her fitness. She was supposed to meet her father and grandfather at 3 p.m. for lunch after a shift at a student recreational sports centre, but she never showed up. When she didn't return home that evening, her father called the police. Jill's family distributed flyers all over town, and volunteers mapped out routes where she may have gone that day. At around 5 p.m. on Friday, her bike turned up. It was spotted by a jogger. He reported that he had seen it in a cornfield near Ellettsville, 10 miles northwest of Bloomington on Wednesday, well before anyone knew of her disappearance. He picked it up and kept it until he saw a news story about the case. Investigators searched the area but found no other clues. The area where Jill's bike was found brought up more questions than answers for investigators and her family. She was last seen riding away from her home in a southerly direction. However, her bike was found 10 miles to the northwest. This would not have been the route that she would have taken, as it would have taken her through traffic in town. 3 days later, the mystery deepened when a digital radio believed to be Jill's was found neatly placed in the parking lot of Bloomington Church. Police wanted to question a driver of a suspicious dark-coloured pickup truck. It was witnessed driving quickly out of the lot by another churchgoer. Investigators conducted dozens of searches and have received nearly 3,000 tips about the case. One of the most viable leads they had was about an 18-year-old woman who claimed that 2 weeks after Jill vanished, she was walking past an old black Ford pickup truck in Ellettsville around 10:30 p.m. when a driver grabbed her arm and attempted to pull her inside. She broke free and escaped. However, there's been no arrest in that case. Ellettsville is just 3 miles from where Jill's bike was found, and authorities believe that the two cases may be connected. Another attempted abduction was believed to have been related to Jill's case. The incident occurred in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and involved a female cyclist whose bike was deliberately struck by an unknown motorist. He tried to drag her into his car before he was chased away by a witness. A composite sketch of him was included on Jill's missing posters in the hope that someone might recognise him and bring him to justice. Authorities had another possible theory in the case. They surmised that Jill may have been a victim of a hit and run, and the occupants of the vehicle may have panicked, moved her bike, and then hit her body. The damage on her bike, though, was minimal, making it unlikely that she was struck while riding. Despite this, investigators believe that it was possible that she was struck while resting or working on her bike. Unfortunately, little evidence has been found to tell what really happened to her. The case was aired on Unsolved Mysteries on the 10th of September 2001. On the 22nd of March the following year, 3 women implicated themselves by confessing they had taken Jill's life and dumping her body near Salt Lake. A search was made of the area, which was cut short by flooding, but her body was never recovered. Polygraph examinations were conducted on the women, and it revealed that they were lying about their involvement. No charges were filed for their deception. In March of 2003, Jill's remains were discovered by 2 hunters in a wooded roadside area east of Bloomington in Morgan County, Indiana. In April of 2006, John Myers of Ellettsville was arrested. John had been a suspect for many years. Jill's bike was found just 1 mile from his home. He was on vacation from work on the week of her disappearance. On the day she vanished, witnesses noticed that the windows in his trailer were covered and his car was parked out of sight. Also, he was reportedly hysterical that day. He talked about leaving town and never coming back. John and his girlfriend had broken up shortly before Jill vanished. A few days later, he told his aunt about her disappearance and claimed that he was afraid that he would be blamed for it. He also said they hadn't found her body yet and guessed that she was no longer alive. He also told her that he was scared of roadblocks, but wouldn't say why. Following Jill's disappearance, John brought up the case to a number of people for no apparent reason. He told co-workers about how he was considered a suspect, how her bike was found near his home, and how she was probably taken away from the area. He also falsely claimed that he had found her bike. He also bet that her remains would be found in the woods. On another occasion, he stated that if he was ever going to hide a body, he would do so in a wooded area up this way, pointing north of Maple Grove Road. He claimed he was comfortable with that area because he used to hunt there. He also told a corrections officer that he felt sorry for what happened to Jill. He gave him a list of places to help search for her. Her body was later found by a hunter in one of those areas. In November of 2004, John called his grandmother, stating, "Grandma, if you knew the things that I've got on my mind, if the authorities knew it, I'll be in prison for the rest of my life." He also claimed that his father knew what happened and had taken it to the grave with him. He later told her grandmother, "I wish I wasn't a bad person. I wish I hadn't done these bad things." While in jail, on unrelated charges, John also talked to his cellmate about the case. Investigators later took his ex-girlfriend to the area where Jill's body was found. She identified it as the same place she had taken her one evening after they got into a heated argument. When questioned by police, John claimed that he was not afraid of roadblocks and had never talked to anyone about Jill's disappearance. The prosecution claimed that he had been angered after breaking up with his girlfriend and took all his rage out on Jill by forcefully taking her away and ending her life. He was convicted of the crime on the 30th of October 2006 and sentenced to 65 years in prison. Since this determination, it was later suggested that John may be innocent due to a rush to justice. Allegedly, his defence attorney Patrick Baker barely put an effort into his case, and the jurors were allowed to drink alcoholic beverages and maintain access to cell phones and televisions, conducting themselves in a manner described as a fraternity party-like atmosphere. He appealed the verdict to the Indiana State Supreme Court. In November 2015, his conviction was upheld. In October of 2019, a federal court vacated Myers' conviction, claiming that his legal counsel was ineffective. They ordered his release within 120 days of the ruling, unless prosecutors opted to retry him. The Attorney General was planning to appeal the court's decision. Based on Myers' argument, he had no issues while in prison and no previous criminal history. The judge had concluded that Myers would not be a danger to the public during his release. Myers told the judge he planned to live with his mother in Ellettsville. His scheduled release date will be the 15th of June 2020. Jill's brother Brian, after learning of the ruling on the 29th of May, lamented the decision and posted his thoughts on Instagram. He said that the most upsetting part is the way the system works. Nobody from our family was able to speak for Jill. I'm not going to lie, their case was circumstantial. There was no DNA, but there was a wide variety of evidence that led a jury of 12 peers to find Myers guilty. Once again, our system silences victims. It silences those who care for those who are lost. My sister didn't get to be present for my wedding. My children will never know their Aunt Jill's voice or laugh. And the system doesn't allow anyone to speak for her at this time. I write from this place of anger and hurt. I just had the biggest cry I've ever had in a long time. I hugged my kids in a way that they couldn't understand. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There are many things that I love about the life I have and the place I live, but time and time again, I've seen victims being treated as less than. It sucks. Jill doesn't have a voice anymore, but I can be a voice for her. Sandra Seaton Henry was a native of the Ojibwe Indian Reservation in Ontario, Canada. She was one of 6 children. Her father was an aggressive alcoholic who acted out on her mother, Myrna. In 1969, he was barred from the house by court order. Myrna was forced to take work as a food vendor with a travelling carnival. When she had to leave for 3 weeks, she asked a babysitter to watch over the children. However, the babysitter eventually left and the children were alone. A welfare worker arrived a few days later and took the children away. On the 25th of October 1969, Myrna was summoned before the Winnipeg court. She, like many Ojibwe parents, were intimidated by the court hearings. The judge decided that the children should be placed with the Child Welfare Department, or were either adopted or sent to foster homes. From the start, Sandra tried to get her family back. In 1971, she was reunited with the sisters Wanda and Brenda. In 1988, they found their brother Chesley, who had been adopted in the United States. Along the way, they also found Myrna, who joined in the search for the remaining siblings. Up to that point, they'd been unable to locate their two younger brothers, Bernie and Kelvin. The case was aired on Unsolved Mysteries in Canada on the 9th of February 1993. On the night of the broadcast, the case was solved. Bernie's adoptive parents and one of Kelvin's former foster mothers were watching. With their help, Sandra soon put in touch with them. Bernie's name is now Bernie Hawley, and Kelvin's is now Tony Tavolino. They were reunited with Sandra and the rest of their family on the 4th of March 1993.